Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are around the world. Welcome to 1847 Liberty. We stream live from Minnesota, USA.
Good evening. The scenes from central Monrovia on Tuesday should trouble every Liberian who believes in democracy. What began as a peaceful student protest ended in chaos, fear, and tear gas. It raises a simple but serious question. How does our government respond when citizens speak up? On that day, unarmed and organized students took to the streets to exercise their constitutional right to assemble. Many were members of the Student Unification Party of the University of Liberia, carrying a petition that captured the deep frustration of a generation. Rising unemployment, grinding economic hardship, and a sense of exclusion from the decisions that shape their future. Their message was clear and simple. Jobs and justice. That is not a radical slogan. It is a basic democratic demand. But instead of engagement, they were met with force, unnecessary force. The Liberian National Police chose tear gas and arrests over dialogue and listening. That decision is more than a policing failure. It is a political failure. When a government deploys tear gas against peaceful protesters, it sends a message. Dissent is not welcome. It tells citizens that raising their voices is a threat, not a right. And that mindset is dangerous. It undermines trust, fuels anger, and chips away at the very foundations of our republic. The images from Tuesday are hard to ignore. Students choking, collapsing, running in panic. These are not the images of a confident government. They are the images of a state that appears increasingly uncomfortable with scrutiny and accountability. Yes, maintaining public order is the police's job. But there is a clear line between managing a crowd and silencing it. By all credible accounts, that line was crossed. So far, no convincing justification for the police response has been offered. The continued silence from authorities only deepens suspicion and erodes public trust. In moments like this, Liberians deserve timely, honest communication. They deserve leaders who explain what happened, why it happened, and what will change to make sure it does not happen again. This is not an isolated incident. We are seeing a pattern. Protests by civil servants, motorcyclists, and now students are becoming more frequent. That is not a coincidence. It reflects a widening gap between those who govern and those who are governed, a gap that cannot be closed with force. Liberia's own history should be a warning enough. From the abuses of the 1980s to the unrest of the early 2000s, attempts to crush dissent have never brought lasting stability. They have only deepened grievances and at times pushed the country closer to crisis. The students' demands may be ambitious, even difficult to achieve in the short term, but that does not make them illegitimate. In a democracy, citizens do not have to be perfectly reasonable to speak. They have to be peaceful. And the burden is on the state to respond with dialogue, not intimidation. Instead, we saw arrests, including of figures like Fode and Massaquoi, reinforcing the perception of a heavy-handed response. Detention must never be used to silence critics. If there are charges, they should be lawful, transparent, and subject to due process. Anything less undermines the rule of law that the government claims to uphold. President Joseph Numa Boaka's administration now faces a defining test. It can continue on the current path, meeting protests with force, treating criticism as hostility, or it can choose a different course, one that recognizes dissent as essential to good governance. That different course is possible. It could include a youth advisory council to bring young people into direct dialogue with policymakers. It could mean an independent review of police conduct at protests, clear protocols on the use of force, and regular public forums where citizens can speak and be heard. We have seen this approach work before. For instance, in 2018, dialogue between university students and the Ministry of Education helped bring reforms to tuition policies after nationwide protests. In neighboring Ghana, officials have often met with protest leaders at the table rather than in the streets, reaching agreements that diffuse tensions and prevent unrest. The lesson is simple. When leaders listen, crises become opportunities. When they refuse, tensions grow. Liberian youth are not asking for charity. They are asking for opportunity, accountability, and inclusion. The basic ingredients of democratic citizenship. Teargas may clear a street for a few hours. It will not clear away unemployment. It will not erase frustration. It will not silence a generation that feels shut out of its own future. If the underlying conditions remain unchanged, the protests will return, larger, louder, and harder to contain. The choice before the government is clear. Escalate confrontation or embrace engagement. For the sake of Liberia's fragile democracy, its hard-won peace, and its future, the path of engagement is not just a wiser choice. It is the only responsible one. Now, to unpack the police response, we're joined by a former senior law enforcement officer with years of experience in crowd control and public order policing, and Liberty's senior law enforcement and criminal justice commentator, Mr. Charles E. King. Mr. King is a veteran law enforcement professional and security consultant with experience across Africa, Europe, and the United States. Educated in Liberia, England, and the US, he holds degrees in law enforcement and criminal justice administration from the University of New Haven in Connecticut and completed advanced training at the FBI National Academy with the US Secret Service. A former Deputy Director of Police for CID Affairs and Deputy Director of Training at the Liberia National Police Academy, he authored Constitutional Law for the Liberia Law Enforcer and later founded Hawa Security Systems Incorporated, a private security firm serving major clients in Liberia. After the Civil War, he resettled in the United States, bringing a deep cross-cultural insight and a long-standing commitment to public safety and human rights. Mr. King, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm here, as always, to give whatever assistance I can.
In high pressure situations, I beg your pardon, but like this before, help us understand from a professional standpoint, what should guide officers' decisions when dealing with largely peaceful student demonstrations?
Mr. Salko, first of all, let me say to you that in my role in law enforcement at the police, at the Liberia National Police, we've always had professional crowd control experts and officers who handle those type of situations. Okay, not everybody can, and if I sit down and say I can do that, no, you have. That's why you have specialization. It's the ability of the administrator to make use of those expertise within the organization so that they have the final say with regards to working with students. Now, approaching this from the police academy standpoint, because I have to mention also, it's very important for the listeners to understand this. I was trained at the Liberian Police Academy for law enforcement, and we had all areas of training, including riot control, including crowd control. That's part of the professional training. The reason why I mention this is because I feel that my success has been training with other people from the different level of society. And by doing so, you understand the psychic of the Liberian society by interacting with people from different parts of the counties of Liberia. You're listening to their story, listening to what's happening in the community. This is important to understand. That's why I keep on promoting and stressing the fact that you have to go to the police academy. That is where law enforcement starts, to understand the people you're dealing with. And I'm very passionate about this. I'm not talking about for 1 week training, 2 week training. I was there for 9 months. We did everything together. We did everything together. That's how you understand the people you're dealing with. Now, coming back to how to handle these student situations, you have to categorize what is a peaceful march, what is a demonstration, and you have to analyze those steps that presents itself before it can escalate into something else. Okay, it's important. Now you have students demonstrate. You know the history of the students' demonstrations in Liberia. You know what happened during the April riot. You see this. There's no amount of law enforcement in Liberia that can handle any crowd, any large crowd. It's not possible. So I'm saying this and I'm talking to those people who are listening. You see, Mr. Sako, I'm getting tired, really, of talking about the same thing over and over again. As one of the members of the political parties said, you can't just repeat the same thing over and over and over and over and getting the same results, and still we don't learn. There's something wrong with us in our country. And it's because we do not allow the professional, or should I say the professional doesn't come up and stand up and say yes or no to something. Just because the president may tell you to do this, you don't do it against your professional ethics. You have to advise him what is proper steps to take. Now, when you go ahead and define and do what he says and go against the law enforcement code of ethics, you must be held responsible. And I refuse for anyone to tell me it is not so. You have a choice. You see, when you take an oath of office as an inspector general of police, and I'm talking about deputy director of police as well, I promise my commander, my mentors at the police academy, Peter Y. Wilson, James Fukba, Gabriel Galacadjo, and the rest of the group, I will not disappoint them. And I refuse to disappoint them. The Law Enforcement Code of Ethics states, as a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve mankind, to respect the constitutional rights of all people, to liberty, equality, and justice. Now, if you understand this code that you sign, how can you go against this? This is my problem with us in Liberia. And this is my problem with security in Liberia. I'm talking this out now. They can get upset with me. I don't care. Because someone has to be able to stand up and talk. All the talk we've been talking, no one has ever thought to read the articles in the newspaper, to listen to the programs, and make contact with me to get some advice. I don't want that job. I don't need that job. But no one. There was a situation time once I talked to one of the police ladies, and I said, look, I want to give a free presentation to the women police officers. They have the association there. Oh, we talked because I contacted her by reading in the newspaper what was happening. Oh, so Mr. King, thank you very much. We heard about you. We'll contact. I never heard from her again. You know why? Let me tell you why. I will tell you why. And those who listening who want to quote me, I will repeat it. They probably went to the big people in the police and they said, oh, no, don't contact that man. Don't contact that man. I know us. What's wrong with those people? You don't think I know I was born yesterday? I've worked in Liberia. I work with law enforcement in Liberia. And I work with the people, the officers from the different level of society. I know the people. It hasn't changed much. It's the same old problem we're having. It hasn't changed.
Okay, let's look at the use of force and protocol. The use of force and protocol from policing standards and perspective. Was the use of tear gas to disperse the student protesters justified, and what protocols should guide that kind of decision?
You only use that amount of force necessary to overcome a resistance. This is the concept and principle in law enforcement. I train now. I was deputy director for training at the police academy. So if someone wants to come at me on this program, let them ask me the question. I'm ready for them. You only use that amount of force necessary to overcome the resistance. If there's no resistance, why are you using tear gas? If there's no resistance, why are you showing force with tear gas equipment and everything? Unless you want to incite something, unless you want to create fear in something. Why is it that the marchers who wanted to march to express their constitutional rights, why is it they didn't have the opportunity to be given to apply for a police permit to march? It should be made of. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, we talked about this on one of your shows. I said make it available instead of the person who has to sign it is going on vacation. or the person who has to sign this document go for lunch. Why are you making it difficult for the people? Give the people the documentation and let them march. When you escalate, when it escalates into something else, again, let me stop there. You have a group of students coming to march, or a whatever organization to march. Okay, where do you want to march? When do you want to march? Here's the information you put down. What the police should do is invite the organizers to select marshals for the day. Their representatives, they can be put some sort of identification around their armband to say marshal for the day, and let them be coached by the police in how to organize and control their crowds, and let them march, and then give them a police band, for goodness sake. Let them march through the street to express what they want to express. But when you stop someone from expressing themselves, what happens when you put water in a tea kettle and it boils? You keep on boiling, it can blow the top off.
Yeah, with pressure rising.
This is the understanding about law enforcement. I don't know where some of the people coming from who say they have law enforcement experience, because this is basic police work. This basic. You don't escalate something. You make it everyone has a right to express themselves. And when you go before the Department of Justice, the Minister of Justice, or the President, and the President says, why should we allow this? You talk as a professional Inspector General of Police, man. If you can't handle the job, move.
Okay, so that was part of the pre-planning. So that's part of the proactive plan that they should have, put in place to prevent the situation from happening. But let's look at de-escalation versus confrontation. So I want you to walk us through what a de-escalation plan should look like in a situation like this. And at what point do you say we have failed to de-escalate and to move into unnecessary confrontation?
Well, look, when you say de-escalate, if you are responsible for escalating something, you now are trying to de-escalate. You're trying to look at the officer's action. What prompted the use of the tear gas? We have to look at that. I don't know the full story, but what prompted the use of a tear gas? Was there an arrest made? Was there what type of? I saw them picking up, pushing a young lady, pushing her and pushing her. Why would you do this? She didn't have any weapons in her hand.
Yeah.
I also saw them picking up again. I'm only looking at what I observed. I don't know what escalated the thing to arrive at that level now. It's important.
Yeah.
If you bring me and show me pictures, I can comment on it. But the one I saw when they were picking up some students and putting them in the truck, in the back of the truck, I saw one of them hitting the student or hitting the person that had arrested. It may have been a student, maybe, I don't know. Why did you have to hit them?
Did the student appear to be resisting arrest, or?
I did not. Well, I didn't. I only saw them when they were being put in the back of the pickup truck. Now, if you go in the back of the pickup truck with all the soldiers, all the police around them, I didn't see much resistance, but it did not demand striking someone and putting someone under control. They're two different things.
Okay.
You see, this is taught at the police academy. You don't strike someone. You can restrain someone. The person is pulling. You hold their hands down, but hitting the person, that's not necessary. That's what I saw on the angle in which I saw it at. You understand? But we're talking about de-escalating now. De-escalating. Okay, here you have the children. They're in the street. soup, whatever you call them, whatever it is. They're in the street. They're running. Where they're running to? Where they're running from? Is there a way out for them to escape? Because if you take any person, or even if you take an animal and push them in a corner with no way to leave, they will come at you. It's survival. So you have to keep that in mind. If you have a riot situation where you have to use tear gas, you have to remember where the wind is blowing And if the people that you trying to prevent or use this tear gas has a way to escape, and can they leave? If they're running away and you run after them, what are you doing? You understand? How you can run after someone who's running away from you to grab them, to bring them? What did they do? You see, you're supposed to have cameras. You should every officer that got should have probably cell phone. On a situation like that, you're supposed to have people out there filming the condition to see the actions of law enforcement. These are all part and parcel that you put in place. You understand? You don't bring the officers with riot control already. They haven't even started. You bring a riot control. You see, again, I have to look at all the situations that taking place. I'm only seeing and observing what I see on the reporters, what I see, but looking at it, those students, really? I mean, did they have weapons in their hand? Were they throwing rocks? Why did they throw rocks? If they wanted to go direction A, did you stop them? Direction B, did you stop them? Direction C, did you stop them? Then where they're supposed to go? It goes down to the fact what's prompted it first. Why they couldn't get why you didn't grant them permit to go and march.
Or do proper pre-planning, like you mentioned.
Yes, call the people. And then what is the police supposed to? You see, I'm proactive.
Yes,
I am proactive, and you have to be proactive when you're dealing with people's rights and responsibilities.
yeah, especially with modern day policing.
And this is what you have to. All the other political parties. Let me ask you something. Has the police called all of the political parties' head and deputy heads together and say, let's talk about this presence of your group? Have they called them together to have a presentation to them? Tell them what the situations are. Not one or two people, all the political parties. Have you called them? Have you had a public display of this thing that you call them together and help them understand how and where and to get the to get the permission? Even the SOUP organization, have you called the student organizations together? You said they can do this, they can do that to get this and that permission. When they come to get the permission, the man going for lunch. Or you got enough paper.
Make it easy for them to
make it easier for them
to assemble and express their rights. Yeah?
Yes, there's nothing wrong with that. But then you want to. We talked about this some time ago when the ladies wanted to protest or say something to President Borgai. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can look for that video. They were in front of, sitting on the pavement at the executive mansion, the new executive mansion, right? They were sitting across. You had the riot control people coming and blocking them. So what they did that for? Tell me. The women were sitting down, and I'm looking at them. Why you block them, the image from the mansion for? What, in riot gear, for what? For what purpose?
They didn't pose any risk.
Of course.
Anything.
I didn't see behind them or anywhere else, but the image I saw is what I'm talking about. Something is wrong with our law enforcement people in Liberia, and unless we get it straight, I'm tired talking. I'm really tired talking because everyone seems not to care. Everyone seems to want to do their own action. And if you go further, if you have a strong police organization and strong head, let's look at how the Inspector General and his deputies are dressed. Look at them. Look at the rest of your officers. How can you even say they're representing you? Now, no one would tell them this, you see, because no one in the organization would say to them, boss, something's wrong. No, because they are afraid of their job, you see. And if you have that type of mentality existing in your police force, then something's wrong with your administration. And I'll tell you straight as that. I'll tell them straight, something's wrong. If your officers looking like that, and you looking top branch, then something's wrong.
Yeah.
Now, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it, but I challenge any of them. Come on. I dare them. Come and challenge me. You're not talking with someone who bought their qualification. I didn't buy it. I earned it.
That's
So
for sure.
let them talk.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
So
and
let's.
one more thing, one more thing,
All right.
one more thing. When
Okay.
you take on, and I keep on saying this,
Mm-hmm.
when you take on a responsibility and you go in front of the legislature for confirmation, you must know how to present yourself and what you are demanding. You can't take a position and then go in. When you take the position, you're sworn in, and then within a few months, you say, we don't have this, we don't have that, we don't have the other. Then what you took the job for? You're supposed to find it. You're supposed to get up in front of the legislators and say, I will not take this job unless I have this, that, and the other budgeted in my organization. Because, because what will happen? Anything happen, they blame you. And you will look bad. You will look bad. So you have to take a stand. But unless you want a job so desperately, then well, then you would anybody. Then
And
you
that
can.
is the case with most of our officials.
Well, then I'm talking about law enforcement now. They
Yeah.
look so bad that they would drop their standard and that their business.
Yeah.
I'm finished with that. I'm finished talking.
All right. So let's look at crowd control and best practices. Crowd control best practices in modern crowd control training. So how are officers taught to handle largely peaceful political protests, especially involving students, without triggering panic and injury?
Well, first of all, it's the person's attitude. When you're going to handle crowd control, you're not going to in your riot gear because again, psychologically, it's telling them you're prepared for force. Law enforcement officers are supposed to be in the community to help protect those who need protection if they're marching, to help protect other people from being by being injured by a group of crowd moving through the street. The police there are there to help organize and regulate traffic and the pedestrians as they're marching through. You do this not only by yourself as a police, but you do so with the cooperation of the marshals from the group themselves, so that they will be able to identify who is a student and who is a part of the organization and who's an instigator. So they can point to someone and say, officer, that person over there is not a student. We don't recognize them at all, and they're causing trouble. Or, Mr. Police Officer, that person there is not a member of our party. You see? So, and then there are methods on where to have the police presence to cut off traffic, to allow traffic to pass at intervals, and then the march starts again. And then this is all in consultation with the traffic director of traffic or the chief of traffic, the chief of patrol. Those are the people that gets involved in these things from the beginning. Okay. Now, again, I'm not going into the crowd control aspect because I'm giving you an overview. Do they have a proper crowd control person at the police force? I'm not talking about riot control now. Because you see, with riot control, you got the guns, you got this, and there's a way to hold on one another and pushing forward. That's a whole different technique.
Yeah.
So you keep them in the background, way in the background, accessible so that if a riot does break out, then they can come forward. Otherwise, you put your officers in front that dress off normally as peace officers. You see? And also looking out for people who may need water in case they're fainting. First aid, those officers know how to give first aid when a person is weak and when they're falling down or something like that. Do they know? Have they been trained in first aid? Things like that.
If they don't know, they know who to turn to. I'm here, Mr. King. I'm willing to offer my services free of charge.
Thank you. You see, those are what you have to put in place along the way. Do you have emergency along the way from where they were starting to the American embassy? Is there a clear path? Have you put people in front? As I said, It would have been so much easier to contact the police band and say, please create an escort. You see, you change the flavor of the movement into something more approachable, you see. And that's what you deal with crowd control. You have to look at the tempo. And the students also, we know what happened during Dole time when he said, send Grady Allison, move or remove. You see what happens when students, when the former President Salif was driving, was going on a motorcade, and the students surrounded her. She got out and said, and walked to the students. Why are you stopping the students when you were the very same president who were at that time, Emma Sawyer, Tipote, Famula, they were all on the university campus talking about this and talking about that during the Talbot administration, making big talk. Everyone was making big talk. Why are you scared to go to the university now and shake this SUP organization? The student unit, they don't know what they're probably supposed to be doing. But no, Tipote is in Liberia, and I'm mentioning his name because he's all part of the progressive. Has he gone to the university? Has he gone to speak to the students to show them how they should carry out what they're talking about? Huh? Emma Sawyer was there all during the time. Famule, he came from England the other day to talk to certain party members. I don't remember which party. Did he go to the university? Did he try to talk to this SUP organization? No, not that I know of. I could be wrong, and I stand to be corrected. But he was all one of those who talked during Talbot administration. When Dole administration came in, as they said, monkey know what stick to rub their behind on. They didn't play around with Dole. They wouldn't play that mess with him, but they did with Talbot.
Dole wasn't playing.
No, he know Dole. They know what Dole would do. And Dole put President Salif in jail. Wasn't she in jail? You see, I'm telling you that all this talk, all these people who created all this big situation that we find ourselves in today, where are they? Because family living in England. They create their chaos and then they run away.
Yeah. The country is no longer.
I had a business.
The country is no longer conducive for them.
No, not for them. But before, it was, you see, they did what they had to do. Now, I challenge all of them. I'm not a politician, but I'm looking at the public safety aspect. What has been created here? What has been? Where the jobs? Where the law enforcement in the different counties? Look at the killings that are going on in different places. And look at the mindset of the people. Something's wrong, but no one's talking. No one is talking because it doesn't suit their interests.
Yeah.
It doesn't suit their interests.
Exactly. So let's
law enforcement is part of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's look at arrests and targeting leaders. So we've heard during the protest now, we're still talking about this protest or the march or demonstration, student demonstration. So we've heard that at least a dozen protesters, including one of the planners, the leaders, were arrested. From a professional standpoint, what are the risks and implications of appearing to target protest leaders for arrest?
Well, it's obvious that from what I've been reading and what I've been hearing, and I stand to be corrected, that they see the police as a member of the political party in a way such as the head of the organization. Okay. This is why you have to be very careful when you are accepting a position and what you have been perceived to be connected with. You see, and can you be an inspector general of police without being a member of a political party?
It's possible.
Of course, it is possible. You run the risk of being dismissed if you take a stand. But that's okay, because I'd rather look in my face in the morning and say I did professionally correct than to look in the face and say I lowered my standard. You see, Director Harmon, Police Director Edwin Harmon, he took a stand and he was removed from office by the president. He said that's okay. So he wasn't going to drop his standard.
No.
And today he's recognized as a professional in Liberia, and others have taken steps. Some others may not have. But again, let's go back. Are you a member of the party? Have you been associated with the party? Have you been going to the different programs of the party? Are you all? It is important. You see, it's important. And if you're always there on every case that takes place, you have a director of CID. You're not an investigator. You are a supervisor of the police. You have the CID director, you have the traffic, and all these people should be properly trained to be able to handle the press. You see, you have to train them. So are you recognized as a part of a political party? Have you called all the group around the different parties to show them that you are not a member? Have you been a registered member of a political party? So all of those things is what you have to fight against, because any action you take will be connected with whatever party they feel you are connected with. Now, I'm not saying you are connected with a party. I'm saying that's the perception. You understand? So how do you do this? You make sure that every action you take is straight down the line professional. Again, as I say, if you can't be a professional, then, you either, you suffer the consequences. You have to be a part of being firm to what your code of ethics is all about. You have a code of ethics. If you sign that at the time you were commissioned as Inspector General of Police, and every other officer signs that, then you have your rules and regulations right there, what your responsibilities are. And if it means going against that, then it's up to you. If you want to call yourself a professional, have you gone according to the code of ethics? It's very important, the training, because who are you taking the officers from? From the society, from the strata of society. They come from the community. That you want them to go into the community and do what? You see, you're creating for them a problem. And I hope, Mr. Sako, that you're following what I'm trying to get across. And I hope that those who are listening to me try to understand. When we join law enforcement, it's a profession. And for those people who want to come in and create disturbance, you are interfering with our career. You're interfering with our trajectory that we have chosen to do. It's unfair. It is selfish. It is selfish. People in Liberia, good professional law enforcement officers exist in Liberia today, but you don't give them the opportunity and you show them no standard. The police officers come from the community. They come from the community, from the different wards and district 1, 2, 3, all the different districts. That's where they come from. They come from all the counties. That's why if you don't go to understand, if you want to understand the Liberian society as a law enforcement officer now, I'm talking about the minister, I'm talking about law enforcement officer in security. You got to be able to understand the society. And you get that from getting at the police academy. I go back to the training.
Mhm.
I go back to the training. That's where the respect comes from. That's where you see the officers and what they want to be. It is wrong for us in law enforcement to drop our standard. You are interfering with these other young people' career path. It's a responsibility. Just like those who started who are the progressives, who, when they come in and do something like this, you are interfering with all of our professional lives. Business people, Parker Paint Factory, people who made soap and exporting them, had jobs in the country. Parker Paint was sending paint all over West Africa and other parts of Africa. Soap manufacturing, All kinds of things that we were doing in Liberia, exporting. Where are they now? Then you say you want to keep the people from marching to say they're marching for jobs. Come on, man. You
Yeah,
see?
that's really important. But let's look at accountability and transparency. So the police have not yet given a full public account of what happened. What should an internal review or public inquiry look like in a case like this to restore trust?
Well, when something like this happens, the police should get on the radio to the public instantly to give some initial account of something. Have they done it? Maybe they have. I haven't heard them. But if they have, then again, I stand to be corrected. After the initial account, you should then put together a group. You already have the professional standards division within the police. But you see, the public are apprehensive about the professional standard position division because they feel police checking on police, there's a cover up. It's always going to happen. It's always going to be there. So since we know it's always going to be there, and so to prevent the type of incrimination that will go on, invite members from the civil society to come in and participate, you see, to listen in to the investigation without being intimidated, you see. That's how you do it. But you can't keep it close to the professional standard division unless, of course, if you had the respect from the community, from the public, that this professional standard division can actually do something that's different. But where you have something where political parties are involved in this march, as also, and where the statement can come in that you are being partial, see, then you bring the civil society in. And who are those members? Bring those members who have been affected to come and listen to the inquiry, you see. Let them listen and see what goes on in this. So they won't, whatever comes out, they can say, I was there. You see? And you see, that's how you do it. But this secretive thing in our society that you don't want the people to get, they have to get involved.
Yeah.
They have to get involved. And again, you are talking about your organization. You are responsible for the administration of the Liberian National Police and, frankly, safety, public safety throughout the Republic of Liberia. Throughout. And that also includes people who at the border who come into your country and put up their flag. Now, I'm mentioning that they won't like that, but you know, like you being in your house and someone come in your house, pull you out of your house and live in your house. It sounds straight. But anyway, that's a different story there.
Yeah, let's look at human rights and policing.
Human rights and policing.
So we look at policing rights group says that and policing. So we go to rights group, right?
Yeah.
So some say this reflects a shrinking civic space.
Mm-hmm.
As a former officer yourself,
Yes.
how do you balance law and order concerns with constitutional rights to protest and international human rights standards?
I have to go to our code of conduct.
Mm-hmm.
The code of ethics state to respect the constitutional rights of all men to liberty, equality, and justice. Now, how do you want me to go outside that boundary? How? If it says a law enforcement officer primary duty is to respect the constitutional rights to liberty, equality, and justice. Now, I must then, as a law enforcement officer, must be able to make it possible that liberty is obtained, liberty, equality, and justice, to make sure that they have access to carry out their human right, their constitutional rights, which means I must prevent no obstacle for them to carry out their freedom of movement. It's, I wonder if those listening to this, that would be listening to this program, understand. We have a code of ethics, and that is the code of ethics I must go by. It's just that you go in a hospital, they have the Hippocrates code of ethics. Now, would you want to go to the hospital so that what's been happening around some of the quack doctors you have, cutting up people and operating on them without qualifying? But of course, that's what you have. Everybody seems to be able to be a policeman. Everybody knows about law enforcement. There are other areas in law enforcement, such as juvenile delinquency, the juvenile division, who works with children, who work with young adults. So all of that, you see, all of that is part and parcel of the community service. That's the career police officer who goes out into the community to prevent, again, proactively seeking what the problem is in the community, and going into the community, finding out those areas and bringing programs to the community.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it's so difficult for me to go into 101 on policing because, I mean, as that's what policing is all about. It changes according to society, the advancement in the world today. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody has opinion. Everybody has access to the information that takes place all over the world instantly. So we have to change. We have to look at our mindset in our communities. I often remember a young man who came to me on one of my programs that I give about, and this is important, what I'm trying to connect to you here. He wanted to be a soldier. He says he went to his uncle, somebody in the military, and say, encourage him to come. So I asked him, why does he want to be a soldier? So I can be getting the people straight, man. The people are too rude in this country. When you flog them good, they will get straight. I said, is that what the person tells you? He said, yes, sir. Now, I could have just sat down and said, okay, go. But because of who I am, you see, I had to tell him, that's not what soldiers for. What make you think that you can go correct somebody else? What make you think you good? What make you think you so perfect to be joining the army to go flog somebody? That's because of what they see being carried out, you see? So here's a young man, and when I got you explaining and coaching him about what true military service is, he says, oh, but Coach King, I didn't realize that. I didn't know. I said, but now you know. You see, they are looking for education. The youth in Liberia want to know, they want to learn. They don't know anything about the government. They don't even know how a bill is passed, let alone a law is passed. The bill law, they have no connection between. They don't know anything about their government. So the police now could take on that responsibility of instituting a police cadet or police citizens camp, where you talk to them about the law, talk about the rule of law, talk about how to march, talk about how to present issues to the legislature, talk about peace and security. They become young cadets.
Yeah. Or even without going into deep policing trainings, the police department should have a budget for corporate social responsibility, and they can use some of those funds to do some public information service,
Easily.
programs, right?
Easily.
To just inform people, conscientize people about some of these
That's all.
things.
Go to the community. You're quite correct, Mr. Sako. Go what it takes for a police officer to who is trained now also in public relations and interpersonal relations like that. Trained to go into the community and say, look, we're having a little workshop.
And again, I'm offering my services. I'm an expert in that area.
There you go, Mr. Sako.
Free of charge.
Exactly. No, exactly. And they can easily go to some of these stores in Monrovia and say, look, we have a youth group and we want you to give maybe, I don't know, it could be a pen set or there's things that you can get, maybe a t-shirt and say, young aspirant public safety officers, training them in lifeguard on the beaches, training them how to observe and report. Those are things that brings the community closer, you see, to the law enforcement officer. You see, also you preventing your officers from being used by other agencies to go in and remove people's property and get them off the land. That's not the police responsibility. You see, you're putting them back into the community. They are seen as protectors, but now they come to move you out of your place. That's not the police responsibility. You have to say, no, my officers cannot do that. You have organizations that are set up for that. Let them go in and move. You are there for traffic safety, to make sure people are not injured. That's what you're there for. But when you see the police going in, helping to break down buildings and as you saw in some cases, taking some property, that shows something in the community. And you have to understand it's not just the police, it's the community. They represent their reflection of the community. Yeah. So is that what you want? So I'm sorry, I hope I'm answering.
You are definitely
questions because
that's a good one. So let's look at how we can move past this new normal, of policing. So if you were, how can we prevent this, the new normal? So if you were advising the police leadership tonight, what would you tell them?
This is what I would tell them.
What needs to be changed starting tomorrow?
Okay. What they need to do is to call all the law enforcement professionals to a conference. Get the ones from the, and they don't even have to include me. They don't have to include me. If they don't want me, that's no problem. I don't need them. Let them call all the other professionals, former professionals in Liberia. They have Mr. Marvin Down. He's one of those business people. He was in the CID in Liberia. You have Mr. Chris Massaquoi. He was in Liberia. He was chief of police. Call all the former directors, inspectors general of police, including the opposition party, the CDC men that were there. Call them all together, sit them down and say, gentlemen, every single one of us here have been in this position. Still, we have a problem. So something we are not doing right. Now, if you're man enough to get up and do this, you're on the first step towards improving your organization and improving the situation in Mama Liberia. Because you're bringing everybody together now. And you're asking them, talk to me. Let me know where I stink at. And let me know where I smell good at. You see? And you listen, and then you get the people from the diaspora, professional, who are known professional, to log in on your internet call and have at least a 1 week program on this thing. Every Saturday, go to the police academy. That's what you got a conference room for. Put that thing on the screen and let them talk. Again, I don't want to be there. If nobody want me, you don't got to get me. But they got other professionals better than me that are able to go in and talk this thing. But that's what you ought to do. Get all the police officers, let them come in, the chief, the administrative people, and let them talk what you're doing wrong. And let them give you ideas on how to get funds for your organization, how to get people to come in. If you can go and get fire safety experts from Minnesota to come to Liberia just to let you know that it was not electrical fire but a gasoline fire that started the Capitol, please, something wrong with me, man. Come on. You had to go where to get an expert just for that? But no, but the people say we must get expert. Yeah, because you don't have the confidence of the people. That's why. So how are you going to get the confidence? You get the people who are the professionals who are from the community. That's how you do it. Because when you get them, all of us together, all of them together, I keep on saying us because they won't want me. All right. Get them all together, then they will be able to say, and excuse me, and excuse me, and they will carry your good name and plans into the community and generate support for the plans that you want. The motorcyclists, they can't go into a certain location. I'm not going to discuss that because it's a traffic issue and it's not something for me to discuss. My concern about the motorcyclists is that how many accidents that take place with the motorcyclists, how many deaths that have been incurred, how many women or children that have been injured in a hospital and now crippled or can't function because of an accident on a motorbike. And what have you done about it as law enforcement? What have you done about it as a community? Well, that's our means of living, Mr. King. Okay, if that's your means of living, who will take care of the victim that you messed up when you were when they have their bag of rice, their child, and something else, pot and pan on your back of the motorbike, and you're 3 people on it? Who's responsible for those incidents? Tell me now. Who? Because when you go back into the community, Ma Jua or Ma Masa has had their child injured on a bike. So now, but Ma Masa, when we say don't put 3 people on a bike, you get vexed. Now your own daughter or son injured now, what you want the government to do? Who responsible? And you were the same one here say, oh, you're stopping the people from making living? What you say now? You got money to pay for their injured child? No. Who's responsible? Not government. You are responsible for allowing that child to go on the motorbike. But yes, Coach King, but how do we get to school? But now, these are some of the things that's all part of the community involvement. And so you get together to try to find a solution. Try to find a solution. Don't depend on somebody else. Try to find solution. You got to get the community involved. That is the era of public safety. That's why I say if you change the law enforcement profession, and things change the police department to public safety department, then you encompass everything. Beach security, private security to advise them. Then you increase lighting, things like that. You see, traffic lights going up. Who's responsible for the traffic lights in Liberia? Because I see all kinds of traffic lights. Are they coordinated? I don't know. Maybe they are coordinated. But you know as well as I do, you can't have that lights here, right here, and all that kind of nonsense. But what kind of lights are you bringing in? What's the quality? What's the traffic accident? The other day I saw almost 25, and I may be wrong, I stand to be corrected, 25 police cars when the boycott took over, and jeeps. Where are they? Where are they? I saw it with my own eyes, though. Well, unless that play, but I saw it. Where are they? Are they patrolling up and down the highway? Where are they in the community? Where? I don't know. But those are questions that you have to ask. And this is what people from around the world who are Liberians, who are professionals, will ask you. Unless you don't want to answer questions, say, well, I will not call none of these people. Mr. King, you're just talking fiasco talk. Who will call those people here who can't talk? Well, again, that's the difference between a professional and a person who is pretending to be a professional. That's the problem. And I say it very well so in front of anybody's face.
Mm-hmm.
For the listeners out there.
Okay, perfect.
Please, for the listeners.
Yes.
I agree to come on your program from time to time because I'm not making it sweet. I'm not cutting corners. I'm not trying to make someone feel good. I'm not trying to make someone feel bad. But if I can't talk to you professionally, then I cannot be on your program. If those people out there in the listening world are not going to listen and then take some action, take some concerted actions to do something, then it's a waste of my time. I have other things to do. It's a waste of my time. And frankly, people are tired. I've spoken with people who have come home in our profession and got fed up and left because they don't pay them heed. So for you out there in the listening world, please listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what others have said. And then ask yourself, is this what you all want? Is this the Liberia that you all want? That used to be so popular among West Africa? We used to have the smartest police officers. Their dress, man. Is this what you look around? Is this what you want? And you members in the police department, top brass, you all shining up, beautiful, excellent. But what about your officer out there? Is that how you want him to look? Come on, man. Think twice. Think twice. If you don't like what I said, well, you could even write up Mr. Kasako and say, I didn't like what Mr. King said. It would be fine. I can take criticism. I'm not the only one.
Okay, former Deputy Police Director for CID and Liberty Senior Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Enforcement Commentator, Mr. King, we appreciate your insights and perspective on this sensitive issue. Thank you for joining us tonight and helping us understand the policing decisions behind this protest.